Hey everyone, I am Brad Ellis, and I have finished Ghost of Tsushima.
I am Michael Huber, and I have finished Ghost of Tsushima.
I am Ben Moore, and I have finished Ghost of Tsushima.
Gentlemen, get your keys. Spoiler mode starts right now.
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode, activated.
Hey everybody, I'm Brad Ellis. I'm joined by Michael Huber and Ben Moore.
Yo.
We're talking Ghost of Tsushima, baby.
Yes.
We've waited a long time for this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am a big fan of Sucker Punch. I know, Ben, you're also a big fan of like Sly Cooper games and stuff like that.
Yeah, I came to both Sly Cooper and Infamous very, very late, but when I played Sly 1 and Infamous 1, which is weirdly all I've played of those series, I really liked both quite a bit.
And Mike, I know
you're going to be obsessed with Infamous 2 culmination.
Yes.
Right now, during this conversation, I'm going to be obsessed.
I was going to say, Mike Huber is a big fan of Infamous from what I remember.
Love Infamous.
Big
yeah.
fan.
Only finished Sly 1 as well.
That's
because I was on that Jack and Daxter and Ratchet.
Yeah,
so.
a lot of times you're only in one camp in that area.
Blood and I did a really fun stream of Sly 2 where we played like 3 or 4 hours of that or something. Phenomenal game.
Yeah, Sly 2 is amazing.
Sucker Punch has a lot of talent.
They have a lot of talent. Usually they have a cycle of a franchise per generation, it seems like. We had Sly on PS2, then we had Infamous on PS3, and a little over on PS4. But now, finally, we get a brand new IP for them, Ghost of Tsushima. Kind of like
the Holy Land.
Yeah, the Holy Land. They've been doing open world games for a while, but now this is kind of like their biggest open world yet, their most realistic one, I would say, for them too. Now, before we dive into specific details, I just kind of want to get your guys' general thoughts about playing through this game.
It was a joy. It was simultaneously cozy and beautiful, but also like really intense, because
right.
the game starts out with your whole crew just getting slaughtered. So just like his journey back was so harrowing and so intense, but then there were also times where there were quiet moments and you're petting foxes.
Mm-hmm.
So it just thread the needle between like really serious and really intense, but also really laid back and really cozy. So
yeah.
I appreciate that balance.
I had quite the journey with this game,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that I haven't with a game in I don't know how long, where for a long time I wanted to like it a lot more than I did. I would say for a good chunk of the first act, I was getting pretty burnt out. Things were feeling very samey. I wasn't as invested in the characters as I wanted to be. I had some complaints with the balancing of the game, but with the overall story and with the character-specific stories, I think a lot of them end really strong. And I think I ended up liking a lot of the stories a lot more than I initially did. And I think I ended up liking Acts 2 and 3 more than I ended up liking Act 1. Especially, they added lethal difficulty, which I have not been able to play as much as I would like, because it came out after I finished the main story. But even just messing around with it a little bit, it seems to have addressed some of the issues that I have with the gameplay balance. And so I ended up liking it. Some of it I like a lot, with like just some caveats, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I totally understand where you're coming from, especially some of the bouncing issues. I did run into a lot of that also. I think I enjoyed the story and just the vibe, I guess, more than you did at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does seem like you did come around to it a lot more, especially when I talked to you on Frame Trap. Because when I talked to you before that, you were kind of down on it, and you started warming up to it as you played more.
Right, and it's crazy, like, and I'm sure we'll get into the specifics, but like Sensei Ishikawa was somebody that I was probably the least invested in his story, but then once you actually
start to dig in
Tomoe, and the two of them start interacting and how that story ends up, it's like, oh wow, okay, this got a lot better. And I would say that happened over and over and over again. The way things end with your uncle, pretty phenomenal, very strong ending.
You know what? Let's just get nuts right now and let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So at the end of the game, you become to this. Your uncle is essentially forced to kill you by the Shogun.
Yeah.
So you have this insanely epic emotional duel with him.
Dude.
And
You
after
gotta do some haiku. Before
you guys both write haikus and stuff or whatever at the same time. And you have this epic fight, dude. Like, essentially adopted son, that what he wanted you to be his heir, and you're fighting him. And you get this choice. There's not a lot of choices in this game, and you get this choice to either spare him or kill him. And I want to know what you guys picked.
This is one of my favorite endings of the generation. This ending hit hard. I am so big on video game endings. I was just absolutely blown away. This was such a nice payoff. Just the confliction of embracing your samurai ways or going Mongol style and having to change your ways because the enemy is doing whatever they need to do.
Yeah, adapting, yeah.
So when it finally came to it, though, I had RP'd and played so much still as samurai that, and Shimura is a samurai, so I honored his wishes and I took him out because sparing him would have been so shameful to him. Mm-hmm. Like he would have lived the rest of his life in so much shame that it was almost like I guess it is kind of a mercy killing, but it's more of an honorable,
right?
The samurai.
He's so about all of that.
Exactly. So I took him out.
Yeah, I also took him out for pretty much a very, very similar reason to Huber. It was like honoring this person that meant so much to you. It was totally in line with his code. But I also think it was a nice conclusion to kind of the ideology that Jin had adopted. It was like kind of sunsetting the old ways and literally putting it to rest. Mm-hmm. So Jin and his new way of life could kind of clean up the rest of the Mongols without that kind of interference, I guess, from his uncle. But yeah, I agree, Huber.
Well, shit, guys, I killed him too. Because he's like, give me a warrior's death or some shit, and I was like, oh man, I can't I gotta put you down, Uncle, now, because I don't want to bring shame to the clan, have the Shogun get involved in that.
Mm-hmm. He would have been disgraced.
I did look up the ending if you spared him also. And he's like, you will be hunted for the rest of your days or some shit like that. And Jin's like, I know. Or whatever. And so when we killed, all three of us killed him, we got the white outfit, the white ghost outfit at least. I don't know if you guys got all that too. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. And
I think if you spare him, you get like a red one.
Oh, cool.
Or something. But I don't think anything else really changes.
I really like the white outfit a lot.
Yeah.
That transition, I thought, was mostly well done. I had, like I was saying, I RP'd so much as samurai in this game. I did not want to embrace the ghost tactics. So, like, sometimes I would honestly stealth in just to pop up and say, fight me!
Yeah.
Showdown! Like, I would show down.
That's a very uncanon approach, I guess, Huber. Because he is the ghost.
So, right. But then in that big pivotal moment when, you know, Shimura kind of outcasts him and they are at odds and they are fully conflicted at that point, then I was like, okay, now I am the ghost. And then I started wearing the ghost outfit and just started adopting, like, all right, I'm going to start stealthing everyone. So I thought that transition was pretty well done, like going from samurai to...
I'm pretty sure you have convinced yourself that you are Jin. Like, that is the...
Dude, one of my favorite characters ever, man.
Yeah, I love Jin.
Jin is the best.
Just really quick on the gameplay side, it's really awesome hearing how committed you were, I think, to that standoff style. And something that I do like about the game, because I took definitely a more hodgepodge approach. Like, I was just playing before we shot this and having fun with the berserker darts and just watching like big boys run around and kill the rest of their men. But anyway, the point that I want to say is there are a lot of options in the skill trees, and something that I like that games don't always accomplish is you going the standoff route. You can really invest in that, and it's like, okay, I can pump up standoff to the point where I can kill so many enemies.
First thing I maxed out, Ben.
Right. And I believe there's even armor that enhances
the Sakai armor.
So not only are you getting technique choices for that specific style of play that you want to go into for RP reasons, but there's also gear associated with it. It's the same thing with stealth. If you really want to invest in stealth, like Chain Assassinate, it's crazy.
Yeah.
The smoke bombs are crazy. Like you can also heavily invest in that. So I think that was well done.
Yeah, let's talk about like the amount of tools and stuff you can play around in this game is very surprising to me. I did not expect to have a bow, blow darts, kunai, smoke bombs, like sound bombs, like sticky bombs, like an insane amount to play around with. And this is something we talked about and I brought up in my kind of reviews. You have so many of these tools and they're so good.
Yeah.
They're so good and they're pretty easy to get. It kind of trivialized a lot of the encounters, I feel like.
I think
Because they had so many. Like, you throw the kunai,
Well, it's like...
and then you just pick them up off the corpses.
right. That's
like-
the problem.
You throw the
There's
kunai...
just too many.
Not only does it damage them, it stuns them for a while. And you can hit like 3 people at once, and you got like... I had like 5.
Yeah.
So I could just like throw them and just kill an entire camp.
And then you just get 5 more off their corpses. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
I think the idea that they had with the poison darts and the hallucinogen darts is the right idea, where it's like, okay, you can restock these, but you have to go and get like specific plants in order to fill it up. I think something along those lines for more of your resources, where it's like, if you want to use this, you're really going to have to go out of your way to restock it, would have been beneficial, because I think like kunai are extremely basic and so easy and just completely dismantle a lot of the toughest foes in the game.
Yeah.
And that's true for many things, right? Like the oil's really, really strong. Smoke bombs are really, really strong. The black powder explosives that you throw, like everything can just completely decimate your foes. And so I think following the dart path and making things a little bit more out of the way could have helped.
There's a lot to do in this game. A lot going on here. A lot of quests, a lot of things to go find. Let's talk about some of the tales, specifically the mythic tales, which are
probably my favorite stuff in the game.
There's like, your basic quests this game, helping out some villager or whatever. These are more like tied to mythology kind of things and like lore or folklore, something like that. I kind of want to know what you guys thought about these quests.
I think the setup for it is fantastic, where you're actually kind of going to this performer and sitting down and listening to the tale and getting a special type of cutscene for these quests specifically, made them feel special. And then like I can tell that the people designing this were just giddy, because some of these arenas that you go into, I think it's a drop dead gorgeous game, but some of these arenas that you go into for these duels are just stunning. Like,
yeah, what was like the cave with like the big Buddha statue or whatever? I forgot what that guy was, but man, that was something.
Yeah.
Then the one where everyone's watching you, she's looking for revenge or whatever.
Yep.
That one was so sweet.
And you get that absolutely insane ability from her, where if you use that thing in duels, you just
dude. And you go full Kakashi. You're like, analyze her techniques.
Yes, that is a great touch.
Yes,
dude. Totally. Yeah.
So awesome.
So what I liked about all these quests, Ben, we've talked about this also, is just kind of the open world nature of doing a lot of the same thing kind of over and over, like following some footprints or something like that. This, I kind of like, there's a few opportunities where you get like a map where you have to find this area with all these flowers layered throughout it. You have like a picture and you're like, okay, I gotta find this kind of in the world.
Yeah.
I really like stuff like that. I wish there was a little more like that, more consistently throughout the game.
I completely agree with you. That sort of stuff, when you were using the environment and having a picture to go on it, it actually kind of felt like a bit more of an investigation. I think some of the worst parts in the game, and they lean on it way too much, is, okay, here's your circle, run around till you find the tracks, hit R2, go forward a little bit, find another set of tracks, hit R2. That stuff was a lot less engaging because it just felt like I was running around for a prompt, whereas I feel
that's
like,
what it did feel like.
you know, trying to follow the environment, like whether you're looking for a cloud of smoke or following a picture or whatever it was, it felt like I was engaging with the world in a slightly more...
Yeah, it had more of a sense of discovery, which you can't, of course, do all the time when you're trying to, like, find something random, like, in, like, a small area, I guess.
Yeah.
But I did appreciate touches like that.
For sure.
Same.
I really liked the shrines in this game. Kind of like hidden away. They're almost like little mini platforming. Like, they're not difficult to figure out. They're just like mini platforming sections, I guess, where you'll be going like around a mountain, like the bridge leading up to a shrine at the top of the mountain's out, and you got to kind of climb around the mountain, jump a few things, stuff like that. I thought those were really really solid, good, like kind of like breaking up the pace, because there's not a lot of stuff like that in the game. Maybe besides climbing up a hill to just get to a different part.
Yeah, and the grappling hook was really fun to use. It's just like swinging around.
I wish the grappling hook was implemented a little more throughout the game.
When you first get the grappling hook, you kind of go into a Mongol camp, and you can use it to get a higher vantage point. And I was hoping that the grappling hook would be involved in combat more often or more heavily, or just make it a little bit more dynamic. And you can use the grappling hook from time to time, but it wasn't implemented as much as I thought it was going to be after I initially got it. And this is not a Ghost of Tsushima problem, because I think it works and it's actually very, very good. But sort of like with Uncharted or Assassin's Creed or Tomb Raider or Ghost, I wish there was a way to make climbing intuitive while also feeling like it doesn't really do it for you. That's a lot of like, you're on a wall and you just kind of hold up to go up. And I don't really know how you solve that problem, right? And it is efficient, and obviously the game is focusing on different things. But sometimes I just wish there was a little bit more risk with the platforming.
Ben, man, I just replayed last year the like Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood and stuff. You climb, like the climbing stuff is a puzzle, and I loved that. Like you would have to try different ways to go up, and then it'd be like, oh, I can't go up this way, go back down, go around this way, and then like use these cool moves to like, okay, jump here now and grab that. Like there's some awesome things in those early Assassin's Creed games that the industry has just gone the way of convenience when it comes to climbing, I feel like.
And to give credit to Ghost, some of my favorite moments with the shrines were moments where it was like, okay, the game is showing me that I need to get to this spot. How do I get there? Or the shrine where you're freezing to death and you kind of have to figure a route.
Oh, the fire, right?
So there were definitely moments, with the fire. You had to kind of go from fire to fire and get up the mountain. And
that one was great.
That stuff, I think, where you had to sweat a little bit more was great. Yeah.
I wonder, I was thinking about this a lot when I was playing the game. With the climbing, essentially, I had your guys' thoughts. I'm like, this is cool, but it's like I can kind of turn my brain off on a lot of this. There's no fear. There's no, like, I don't have, like, a feeling in the back of my head, like, I got to pay attention, I'm going to fall to my death or something like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if, in the future, if they do a sequel, if they'll go with a more freeform climbing in the sense of, like, Breath of the Wild or Assassin's Creed, if that would help. I don't... Because I guess it could make sense for him to be able to climb like that. Like, if they gave him some weird, like, ninja tool climbing things, which would be awesome.
Totally. It's my claws.
I know people complain about the stamina system a lot in Breath of the Wild, but I do think it adds some tension where you're like, I'm going to try to climb this wall, and, you know...
Hope for the best.
It creates some natural tension when sometimes you succeed and sometimes you don't because you didn't properly manage your stamina correctly. So,
yeah, I get that too. I do like the stamina meter, I think, though, too, because it adds kind of a sense of progression when it gets better. And you feel like I can climb this now when I wasn't able to climb it before. So I think that's something that could work.
Something I want to give credit to Ghost for that I think is really good is I always hate it in games where it's like, okay, it's giving me a straight line to go to this objective, but there's this cliff. And so, like, I have to, like, go around this cliff to get to where I want. There are a lot of points in Ghost where it's like, okay, here's a cliff, and here's a path down that cliff. So you can just kind of keep going straight on rather than going all the way around.
Definitely.
And that sort of world design, I think, is very cognizant of what the player's going to go through and tries to accommodate that, and I think that's super smart.
I really want to get this off my chest. I have a guilty confession.
Oh, okay.
I want to see if you guys agree or if I'm just a sicko.
Okay.
When you're riding the horse and you jump off something too high,
Yeah.
and the horse slams down, but then just gets up like everything's fine.
It's fine. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I was like weirdly addicted to just doing that. Just like this, like slamming the horse. It was just this sickening thud.
You are a sicko, dude.
The horse just gets back up.
But the horse is a tank for sure.
I mean, it definitely happened to me, but I wasn't trying to do it.
I was like, I could go around or I could just jump. I would jump every time.
Dude,
you sicko, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Speaking of horse, your horse, man.
Yeah.
Well, my first horse died.
Mm-hmm.
I was bummed out. I was like, no, dude.
What did you guys name your horse? Your first horse?
First horse was Kage.
Kage.
Second one was Sora.
First one was Nobu.
Nice. Second one was Sora, dude.
Yeah, I was
Sora.
like, going Sora, baby. Redemption right here.
Yeah, dude.
Let's... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
That was the only thing.
I'm going to change the subject. Keep going.
The horse, unfortunately, was the only thing in this game spoiled for me. Just someone on Twitter was
Wait, what
like,
do you mean? Naming it?
No. The horse dying.
Oh.
Someone
on Twitter was like, don't, like, devs need to stop killing horses or something. Like, basically not really saying it, but, like, saying it.
Okay.
So, I put two and two together. I was just, like, going through Twitter. I was like, oh, my horse is probably going to die.
Yeah.
Of course.
If developers were killing real horses, maybe I could understand, but I thought it was an effective moment.
Yeah.
And the fact that you kind of go through the process again with a second horse, like, I think it's like, like losing a pet where, it's hard. It may be hard for you to get a new pet right away. Like, I wasn't, immediately as attached, and I'm still not as attached to my second horse as the first one. I like that dynamic. I like that this isn't just a resource to get from point A to point B, that I have some...
Yeah, because you spent so much time with that horse, and it's like, even the little moments with your horse, like after you finish a mission or something like that, he's like napping on his horse. They're both napping, he like taps him and stuff, they get up together. Yeah.
Well, and the first one was way bigger. Like, because you get the rental basically before you really get your second horse. So like the size of the first one versus the rental, just massive.
The rental.
The rental, yeah.
Huber over here, it's a rental, so it doesn't matter if I bang it up a little bit.
Just jump off these cliffs. I'm sick, man. I'm sick.
So sicko, man. Lock me up.
That I want to say about the horse is, I think for a moment like that, you really have to do it at the right time.
Yeah.
And they found the perfect moment in the story, I think, to really maximize the impact of it. They didn't wait too long, but they definitely waited way long enough for you to be like, okay, I have spent a lot of time with this guy. So.
This is an overworld, no surprise to anyone. But I think one thing I liked about this game in an open world sense is that it gave me the sense of I want to explore and kind of check everything out, just the way the world is designed and like how well it does a job of showing you things maybe far away or something like slightly intriguing about an area. You're kind of like, your interest is perked. Did you guys ever get that feeling? Because
one of my favorite open worlds to explore, Brad, ever. It didn't feel like a checklist. You're not in the menus a lot. I was saying this on Frame Trap. Just the wind mechanic, I think, is so genius because you rarely have to, once you set your sights on something and put the waypoint, like that's it. You don't have to stare at a mini map. You don't have to open your inventory and open your map. You just follow that wind. So you really stay in the world for such long stretches instead of staring at numbers and menus and checklists. So it was just, it made me want to do everything because you're just running around the beautiful world.
Yeah. One thing I liked about this game, I'm curious what you guys think about it in that sense, is the fog of war kind of thing. How nothing is displayed outright immediately to you. A lot of it is discovered by just kind of writing out, like, obviously the gold bird like shows you where things is all the time.
I am kind of sick of that. Like
Yeah,
the chirp
it's just
of the
kind of
bird.
flying it. But it's not like you see the question marks or whatever just laid out. Like, I saw a thing of Witcher 3 recently, again. Don't get me wrong, love Witcher 3, but I just, like, saw the map and just, like, it looked like there's a question mark every foot from it, like, every couple feet from each other.
Yeah.
I didn't really...
Anxiety.
Yeah, it didn't give me that feeling because a lot of it was hidden right off the bat, but when I did finally do everything, like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff, but it's not... It didn't seem as close to me as some of the other games, which I really liked.
I think that kind of goes hand in hand with how the overall structure of the game progresses, where, you know, you start in one section and then you move up, and it's not like it's completely isolated, right? It's not like you're in a new area. It's just where you were, but bigger, and then that happens again. And I think that creates kind of a nice sense of progression as well. And I think it's smart, the different types of activities that you have. I know some people like really got into the haiku and appreciated that it was there.
Yeah,
wasn't my favorite thing, but I really liked the bamboo strikes. Like,
oh my god,
I saw bamboo
that was
strike,
my favorite thing.
Oh, this is super fun. I want to do all of these, right? And it's not some long drawn out conversation thing. It's something that takes 30 seconds. And boy, Ghost of Tsushima, I think, in a lot of ways, is going to put the pressure on other games going forward because of the diversity of environments and how fast you can get to places and how lenient the fast travel is. It really makes you realize how much that plays a factor into your willingness to engage with the world.
I did not bring that up in the review, and I regret not doing it, is how fast the loading time is. Like, because we've played a lot of open world games, you travel somewhere, it could take a bit, man.
Dude, Odyssey
this was
takes forever.
This was super fast.
Staring at that stupid pyramid in Odyssey.
Yep.
But we were talking about the activities and things like that, and I've mentioned it on Frame Trap a couple of times, but to reiterate, like, at this point, I am definitely sick of clearing Mongol camps and stopping, highway bandits or whatever. Like, of course, repetition in these types of games is a given, and that can be a very, very good thing. And I do think the story, especially once it gets into the later acts, throws some new enemies in that do kind of mix things up. But I wish there was a stronger sense of these camps feeling different from one another.
100%, Ben. And the only time I really got burnt out was going for the platinum. It's why I don't go for platinums. It's just like a grind for that last little bit. Just like over it. Oh, good kid. Fox 10, camp. But I was liberating as I was moving up, so that alleviated a lot. By the time I beat it, I was like 90% done with the game. But I think what really hurt me retrospectively and looking back at that repetition is the lack of a payoff for liberating the island. It was so upsetting. Like, just give me... Like, I'm not even asking for much. This game gives you so much. It's, like, embarrassing that I'm even asking for a little more. But, like, give me 45 seconds of a bunch of Mongols getting into their ships and just leaving. Or I even tried going back to my hideout, because remember, you get the hideout at the end of the game?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, finished everything. Maybe somebody's waiting for me back at the hideout, Yuna or something, to like have a tea. We'll have a tea and a little cutscene.
Celebrate, yeah.
Just anything. It felt so unfulfilling after, like, okay, you liberated the island. Nothing. For doing the like ultimate task. Because they even say when you beat it, Yuna's like, you have the conversation where it's like, there's still work to be done. Like, there's Mongols out there. We got to finish the job. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go finish the job. But then just like, it just felt a little unfulfilling in that sense.
So I want to talk about that moment in particular with the hideout, because I actually think the idea of the hideout is really, really cool, and shows the progression of the life Jin came from and where he's at now, but why that's not necessarily a bad thing, despite it being far less, honorable or grandiose. But so I liked that. I think thematically it was very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't like is when Yuna's sitting there and she's like literally going through all of your side quests and being like, oh yeah, like you still got to do that thing. And this person, yeah, you still got to do that thing. And it's like, I understand from a practical level that you're just trying to remind me and that there's still stuff to do. And I think it's cool that when you're out in the world, they talk, you know, NPCs are talking about you defeating the Khan, and that's neat. But I don't think it was necessary, and it also kind of takes away from the moment when Yuna, you know, arguably one of the characters you're closest to throughout the story, is just regurgitating the side quest.
Yeah, it felt very like video game.
Yeah.
Wait,
but it is.
Wait, this is interesting to me. What did she say? She was like, you need to go do stuff for...
So like the major characters that you have like the tales for, she'll be like, oh yeah, like Sensei Ishikawa, like you still have stuff to do for him.
Oh, that's cool, because I finished all that stuff before I finished the game, so I didn't get any of that.
Yeah.
The only thing she told me was like, go clear the Mongol camp, so that's pretty cool. But also kind of annoying.
it just felt very unnatural. Like,
yeah, true.
It's like
that's all.
Video game checklist.
You don't need. They don't need to say that because you can open your map and just see everything.
Totally. And then it's like, if you go finish that stuff, like, let me come back, have a conversation one more time. Like, give me that wrap-up conversation.
Right. Yeah,
tie a bow on it.
Really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about this super briefly. Of like, I was thinking like, they don't want to get rid of all the Mongols on the island because if you want to play like fights and stuff.
I was thinking too, later, even if it showed boats leaving, there could still be bandits. There could still be wandering Mongols that were just left over that didn't get on the boats. Like,
there could still be guys around. Yeah.
So that was the only tiny bit of disappointment.
So something that I want to get your guys' opinion on, because I've kind of gone a little bit back and forth on it, but so I like where Jin's story goes, and I like his interactions with a lot of characters, and I really like that they didn't turn his uncle into like this comic book villain. You know, when you have that resolution with him, it's just like these are just two different people on two different sides. I think that's really cool. One of my favorite moments in the game, though, and something I could have used a lot more of, is when Jin and Yuna are like on top of that tower and they're just sitting drinking sake, and they kind of have a moment where they're just a little bit softer with each other. They just let down their guard a little bit. And understandably, right, because they're in the middle of a war, things are very serious with everybody. It's like, we got to get vengeance. We got to drive these people out. And that's good and appropriate. But I wish there was just a little bit more of kind of those more casual connections, those moments where you saw them connecting with each other.
When they liberated the island, would have been a perfect opportunity to do that, Ben. You go back, have some drinks.
Yeah.
It would have been perfect.
So, like, the idea of liberating bases, I like the idea of it, but there's so much of it in the game, it can kind of feel like checklist almost. Something I would like to see them do is, which they kind of do, is like when you liberate something, like people move back into it, which is cool.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Like this is like asking too much probably, but I wish there was like some way of you to invest in that and like help build that up. I think maybe I'm getting like too far off track of like building up this like almost small town kind of thing. But I think that would make every single area you kind of liberate feel more personal, like actually mean something more. Because, you know, how many places did you liberate and then you immediately forgot about it?
Yeah, totally.
Like a ton.
And with no ultimate payoff. Yeah, it was definitely the only regret of my journey. It was just like, why did I even... Like, obviously from the story, you want to liberate the island, but without any kind of acknowledgement whatsoever.
It is asking a lot, and I think you're right, Brad, but I think there are very cool narrative opportunities for it there as well, because I actually think the game does a decent job of kind of introducing this idea of the ghost and having that legend grow and having it spread. But it would be neat if, like, kind of as your army or people who believe in the ghost grows, they kind of, like, compete for territory against people who are like, oh no, the ghost is terrible, or or like Umugi Cove, where it's like just this like hideout of like bandits and cutthroats. Like maybe you can, you know, negotiate with them or something, and just the idea of like all of these different people who all have very different interests competing over like limited land and resources and having them clash in a grander sense more often, I think is possible.
So Ben, I think that's very possible because what you're saying reminds me a lot of the Infamous series of kind of like making these choices like this karma system almost, like good and bad, and they've been doing that so long. But in this game, they like cut their cold turkey on it. There's none of that there. Yep. But from a narrative point of view, like there's room for that. I wonder if that's something they'll experiment down the line. Like, obviously, they want to tell a very focused story and make Jin a very specific type of character.
Right.
But I do wonder if there's room for more, like, being, like, kind of like a terror hiding in the shadows or, like, a more honorable, noble person up front.
Yeah, it's tricky, though. Because something I actually really respect about the way Sucker Punch handled it, though, is sometimes I think when you introduce sort of like good or bad choices or light and dark or just some sort of binary choice in the game, you really dilute your main character and he just becomes kind of a vessel of like button prompts that you picked. Whereas while I thought they were going to go more into the like from a player choice perspective, you betraying the samurai code or whatever, I do like that Jin had a firm opinion. He was like, I am the ghost for this reason. I believe in this. This is why we're doing it. You know, I'm going to stand my ground. I think that really made the final confrontation with his uncle a lot more meaningful, and it allowed it where both decisions kind of make sense, right? Like you can do either one, and it's like this is appropriate to his character specifically.
I think one good way they did that is kind of showing like where Jin's coming from is like the flashbacks. Yeah. Which I really loved. I really loved all the flashbacks of him growing up and like his like seeing his father die and how he's dealing with that, being raised by his uncle. I thought it was like the scene where he like stealth kills a guy for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's like the flashback of chasing the bear and there's like the bandit that tried to kill him and he has to cut him down and him just like stabbing this guy in the neck to just laying there and like thinking about what he's done. You've seen like this huge growth of this character in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and to go along with that, I really like that they didn't keep things too straightforward, especially with your father, where you're talking with the woman who makes the poisons for you, and the way that storyline wraps up, where she thinks that you're her father, or your father, Jin's father. That's what I'm trying to say. And just being like, hey, maybe you don't know your father as well as you think you do, kind of throwing into question, like, there is a stark difference between, you know, how we perceive people as kids, how they present themselves to everybody else. Like, I think that really added a super nice dimension to the story.
It's huge. It was the best, most natural way to give Jin backstory without having to do flashbacks or expository. It was just like you're going home. You know, your old caretaker. That whole section was so well done. And it's so huge because that's when he gets the poison, and that's when shit really escalates.
When he plays into it, when he starts pretending to be his father, it's just this incredible bittersweet moment.
Yeah, she's like, take me. You like take her to her mom's grave, and she's talking about Jin got sick as a little kid and helping take care of him. She's saying like the best day of her life, riding on the horse and stuff like that. She just dies, man.
Sad.
Feel it, dude.
Shit. I felt. Do you want to talk about feeling the deaths, dude? Yuna's brother.
Taka,
dude.
Taka. MVP.
I think Taka might be the best character in the game.
Taka,
it's up there.
Is like such a character you want to root for, but I knew he was dead immediately.
Yep.
I knew he was gonna die because he's too pure. Characters like
Way
that
too pure,
always
man.
die, dude.
Good boy Taka. So depressing the way
just
this was handled.
Like this timid kind of guy who wants to do the right thing, you know, but he starts to find his courage and he gets in this situation with you and he tries to save you and like kill the Khan and just gets his head cut off, dude. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you were talking about dimensions, Ben, and this is just another example of how amazing the storytelling is in this game, because that one act has so much effect on so many people. It affects Yuna. It builds up the Khan for being just a ruthless villain that you need to take out. It changes Jin. Like Jin goes. Good. Yeah, the Khan was really good. All the records too, like Conversations with the Khan. I really appreciated finding all of those. But just how layered and natural this story felt is just incredible.
To bounce off that, I think you both bring up good points, because you think about Taka's character, do you really break him down, right? And Brad, you were mentioning this, and it's totally true, where it's like, of course, this super pure-hearted person is going to get demolished in the war, right? Like, you think about it, and it seems kind of obvious, but I think the reason why it hits so hard is because they push back against it, right? Like, Yuna is like, no, this is dumb, you can't do this, but there's tension there because she understands why her brother's doing it, and so it's struggle. They don't just like throw him in and have him die. There's a back and forth, and I think that back and forth goes such a long way in selling it and building up to the moment for when he actually dies. You care because you've seen that struggle.
And talk about,
it's really important.
Totally talk about like conveying the feeling and emotion to a player. Like, I felt responsible for him dying, dude. And it just felt so terrible. Like, I needed a break after that. It's like, dude, how can I even face Yuna now? Like, is she just gonna be done with me? Like, that's it? Like, anytime I had to talk to her after that, I was like so guilty, just so much guilt, crushing guilt from that entire scenario. Yeah,
you go back to Yuna, and the thought going through your head is like, yeah, Yuna, you were right. Your brother died.
Yeah. It's like, shit, man. That was wrong, dude.
Oh, my
God. Go ahead.
Real quick, I want to talk about the Khan. Boy, he really sold a lot of the scenes. Just the kind of the... What I liked about him is he wasn't just this brute, right? Like, he was very conniving and slimy.
Tactical, dude.
And just the way that he delivered his lines was great. In the cutscenes, I think... And we can get into this with mission structure as well, but the actual fight with the Khan wasn't that exciting or distinct or different from a lot of the other fights that I had in the fight.
I did think it was better, though. I did think it was worthy how this game played. I didn't think it was worthy of a final boss, because you got the classic duel with him, but then you also got open combat with him as well.
On the boat, when he's on the ropes.
Multi-phased. Yeah. So initially I was like, oh, that's it. But then, like, as it kept going, I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good. So I had this initial disappointment, but when it was all said and done, I was like, that was actually like the best fight, because it was like multi-phased, I guess.
See, the fight with your uncle Shimura was
emotionally, for sure.
Well, just even mechanically, because playing on hard, I felt like the Khan, like, even though it was multi-phased, I just felt like I was getting through it too easily, and it wasn't...
Totally.
It wasn't pushing back in the way that I wanted. Whereas with Shimura, I felt like I had to be more on my guard, and I couldn't... The duel was more intense, and more damage was being done to me, that it really felt like a proper culmination of all the mechanics that I learned up to that point.
I think that is the true final boss of the game.
Right, exactly. It's just...
I think you wanted something...
At the moment I was fighting the Khan, I wasn't aware that I was going to be fighting my necessarily, right? Yeah. And so just that was the feeling that I had in the moment. I wasn't like, oh, I'm waiting for the final boss. You know, we'd been building up to the Khan the whole story.
If you could have embraced the ghost tactics a little more on the Khan, maybe that would have been better. Like if the first part before the duel was like sneaking in and like poisoning his shit or something, like poisoning him or taking his weapons.
Huber, that's a very like Sly Cooper thing to think of. A lot of the Sly Cooper games are like this plan. They have this heist they want to do, and it's about like doing steps to set up eventually the final push of the heist.
Yeah.
And that's something I could totally see. Yeah. I don't know if it would work as well, but I do like the idea of like making a decision of like, oh, I'm gonna poison a bunch of this stuff to weaken them before I go in.
Yeah.
Well, you do that. You
do that.
You poison his crew.
Yeah.
True, you do actually. What am I saying?
And that's a big conflict with.
I guess maybe if you like took him out a little bit. I don't know.
Are you
I think
I totally forgot that part. You're right, Ben. Okay.
I think the point that I'm trying to say with the con is, yes, it is multi-phased, but I think I wanted those phases to be like really, really, really special, and they didn't feel as special as I was hoping.
Yeah, I think because I forgot that it just felt like it felt like a hideout. You know?
Yeah.
It just
felt, exactly. And it's like I've been working up to the con for dozens of hours. You know,
for sure. Good call.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the other characters. Huber, there's a character I've been wanting to talk to you about for a long time.
I wonder.
Ryuzo.
Yeah.
His friend,
man.
Straw Hat.
Ryuzo. Yeah.
Dude.
When this character was introduced, I was like,
10.
oh man, this is such a Huber joint right here.
10.
Friends from childhood, bonds, leader of the Straw Hats, like a sick organization or sick crew.
Yeah.
Betrays your ass, dude.
Totally.
But feels bad about it. It doesn't feel good about it, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, he did it pretty much to feed his men.
They really sell that. They sell the desperation with Ryuzo. They sell the childhood drama that they had at the tournament. You know, they keep mentioning the tournament.
Tournament, yeah.
Like, I just kept thinking it was so awesome. We did a reaction shots before Ghost of Tsushima. We have had to watch a ton of samurai movies, so I was just having this context for like this movie called Sword of Doom, and I was just getting so many vibes of Sword of Doom, and because they have this like tournament, so just like I wish I wanted to play in the tournament. Like that would have been a sick flashback.
That would be a really sick flashback, actually. Wow. What's the Witcher DLC like that? Is that Blood and Wine? I think it was like a tournament Blood and Wine. It's been a while.
Yeah, I forget. But yeah, just that betrayal felt natural and conflicted.
Like I felt bad when it happened.
Yeah, for sure.
They also do a great job with Ryuzo of kind of planting the seeds of, you know, samurai are kind of fucked up, and the way this whole, you know, who gets to be in the light basically and who doesn't has this, and this is something that they also do with Masako as well, where it's like lives are destroyed by these decisions and how things go down, and that's wonderful as well. I like that it's not just like rah samurai the whole time.
Totally. There's so much. There's so many differing viewpoints, like the Yarikawa clan, right? The Yarikawas? I think it was the Yarikawa, the clan that was taken out by Shimura that Jin then needs to go save. Yeah. Like all these other viewpoints, you know, it's not all rah samurai, man, totally. Right. But I'm also glad too that I'm saddened, but I'm also glad that they had the guts to take out Ryuzo. It wasn't like, okay, we're friends again.
Yes.
It was like, it was too late.
True.
Like they went for it. They didn't pump the brakes. So it definitely had a big impact.
I definitely felt with Ryuzo where I was like, I understand why you did this, but also you need to die.
Yeah.
When he burned his people.
That was rough. That was rough. Wow, I forgot about that, Huber.
Shit, dude. He's all sweating. Like, he clearly doesn't want to do it, but he does it.
I don't remember if you said it, Brad, or if you said it, Huber, but I actually agree. I think a flashback to the tournament would have been phenomenal, because when he's describing it to you, and I do think this is a problem that Ghost of Tsushima has, is you get like a little bit of it, and then you're like, oh, I didn't know you felt that way. And he's like, yeah, I felt that way. And it just like, I think we need something a little bit more here to lean into it, to really drive home what their relationship was like, why this was such a big deal for Ryuzo. Like, it's such a good plot point, but I think it could have used a little bit of expanding. The
An
same
extra
way
mission or something, expanding on it.
Yeah.
Not only their relationship, but by flashing back to the tournament, you get more insight into the samurai at the time and their structure and leadership and how that was all organized. Yeah, there was a lot of meat there that they didn't tap into.
Let's talk about Masako.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories in the game. Just this old badass lady, the last of her clan, dude, on a quest for vengeance, man.
I mean, you could. There's definitely more to it than this, but it was almost comical where you're like, Masako, calm down, don't kill him. Oh shit,
Yeah, you killed him. Yeah,
Like there was no stealth. She's just would charge in,
start screaming and chop people down.
Let's go,
dude. So like, when you go to the beach with her to find her son's bodies, like her husband is the guy at the very beginning of the game that the Khan sets on fire and chops his head off. That's her husband, dude. Dead immediately. And you go to the beach, dude, with her, and he's like talking about the battle, and you see her two sons just like hung up on a tree, man, and her just dealing with this grief and talking about how they used to go to this lighthouse right near here, and she would never let them stay the night, and you eventually bury them there. I think moments like that of diving into a character is like what really makes the connection so strong, like made me connect with her especially so much, because you did get so much with her. I think some of the side stories were better than others for sure.
Yeah.
I think Masako was one of the strongest ones. I think Ishikawa was one of the strongest. Ishikawa was one of the better ones, because you definitely got more time with them, I feel like, especially in their relationship with Jin in the past.
Think about that, guys. Like, think about open world games doing side quests. They're like 9 out of 10 times a one-off. Meet a dude, do a mission, done. The fact that you're doing like 9 missions with these side characters gives there so much room and time to build the story, to build the bonds.
I agree.
Incredible.
And I disagree. I think the intent of building it up and having space, because if you didn't have that space to explore all these different facets of Masako's life and her relationship with her husband, her relationship with her children, and her relationship with her clan, right? Like, it wouldn't have been as meaningful. So I definitely think you do need that space. I think the 9 quest number was maybe a little bit too high. There were definitely moments where I was like, I wonder if we could truncate this a little bit to have even more momentum, have an even bigger impact. Sometimes it felt a little bit stretched too thin, but I still think the thing that you're saying was accomplished, Huber, where you had that build up in space to explore. And the other thing that I want to say about Masako is thank you, Ghost of Tsushima, for reveling in flawed characters. I think the relationship between Masako and Jin is fascinating, because obviously Masako is blinded by vengeance and she's stubborn about it, and she has a hard time hearing a different viewpoint or having patience, right? Because she's so emotionally torn. But what I love is that you aren't just sitting there wagging your finger, because when you try to do that, she's like, wait, you're on a quest for vengeance too. Like, you got to have your vengeance. You can't sit here and lecture me. Let me have my vengeance. And it's like, that's such a great point to make, where when it involves you, it's a lot harder to be rational or have empathy. And just kind of the back and forth there, again, really phenomenal.
When you find out that's her sister behind it all, it's like, man. But it's like, not only is it her sister you find out, but you find out like why her sister feels this kind of way. Which of course isn't like just, but essentially her, like, Masako's story is really fascinating. She was like fended off bandits, I think they said, when she's really young, even though she wasn't the oldest. And the lord of a clan Adachi became her husband, was so impressed by her, he eventually like married her. And Masako tried to give her sister like marry her into a powerful family too also, but this clan she ended up with, Ikeda, was like, her husband was abusive to her. Far in the north, she was isolated. She just grew angry at Masako and envious of her life.
Yeah, she says something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing here, like, you left me stranded in this like frozen wasteland with this asshole, and you just sense the bitterness from her.
Like, okay. I mean, again, it's not. There's better ways to deal with situations, but I was surprised, because the whole storyline is like feeding on bloodlust. Like, everyone's dead, everyone got wiped out, women and children were murdered. So it's crazy that right at the finish line, then when you see the sister's perspective, it's like, well, I'm obviously not on her side, but at the same time, I understand why she.
Yeah, you like understand her motivation, but it's very easy to not agree with it.
Yeah.
And Masako just can't even kill her, and just has her have her sister kill herself. Essentially, I was just like, damn, that was an intense ending to this long quest chain.
Yeah, Masako's quest line is easily one of, if not the most depressing in the entire game. Or at least that I
a lot of them are very depressing.
Yeah.
Ishikawa.
I really like how Ishikawa's ends.
Yeah,
I love it.
Not as depressing.
There were a couple, Ben, you're talking about 9 missions might be a little too many.
Yeah.
Like, by the 4th or 5th one, I was really tired of Jin being like, are you going to be able to do what needs to be done?
Yes, it's exactly what I'm talking about.
7 times he had this freaking conversation.
Like, it's a good line, right? When Jin is like, are you going to be ready? And then Ishikawa's like, boy, don't tell me. You better ask yourself first. And it's like, that's a fine exchange, but you're right. They do have it several times. It's like, okay, I get it. Yeah.
The last third of it.
Yeah, I think it picks up a lot when Tomei kind of comes into the picture.
Oh man,
yeah,
the best when you're running around, looking at your traps and stuff, and just getting to know her. And I think it's pretty obvious.
It's her.
It's her, but just the way that you kind of see everything that she's done throughout that quest line, and it's horrible, right? And man, she really taught these Mongols to do terrible stuff. But you're talking with her, and suddenly you're like, I can't bring myself to hate this person. I just can't. And she gives you all this whole different perspective on why she's done everything that she's done, and she's justified it. And I don't know. I love that kind of story.
Yeah, she wants to make amends for what she's done. She did it. She taught them the way of the bow to pretty much save her life. Because she would have been dead if she didn't. But then she's like, the whole final thing is her wanting to make amends, and you take out that camp with her at the end, and Ishikawa kind of begrudgingly helps.
Uneasy alliance.
Yeah, an uneasy alliance. Then she gets away, man, on the boat.
Yeah.
And Ichikiwa is gonna kill her, dude. Then he just lets her go, man, to start a new life.
Pretty awesome. Some forgiveness.
Yeah,
being shown, which was a nice angle. There was not a lot of forgiveness going down in this game. A lot of definitive endings of people getting taken out.
Ishikawa kind of reminds me of Sojiro in a way from Persona 5, because I love this type of character where he's just this super jaded, cynical old man, and he's just listen, 100% of the time I am right, and 100% of the time you are wrong, and just very slowly over time, finally just peeling back his layers and getting to know about his relationship with Tomoe and how much he cared about her. And then I love when you're kind of in the temple area and you go up and you talk to him, and he's like, I got too obsessed. I gave up too much. Don't do that. And him just kind of laying it out there and saying please don't do what I've done. I was wrong. I thought that was, but again, Huber, you were talking about having space to breathe and build up. And although there might have been a few too many quests, at the same time, I think it was great that you could have those moments.
For sure.
Ben, I know you're just playing around with some of this you didn't finish yet, but let's talk about Norio.
Yeah, I didn't get to see he's the only character I haven't gotten to see the end of his story.
How far are you? Do you remember?
Well, it's weird because sometimes in the game it's okay, you did quest 3 of 8, but now you can do 1 of 8, or
you can do them out of order
a little bit. So I'm not exactly sure where I am. I think I've done 3 or 4 Norio quests.
What do you think of him so far?
I like him a lot.
Yeah.
I think they established the story with his brother pretty well, and just him kind of living in the shadow of that and what he wants to do as a monk. I think it's all very interesting. I would love to, I'm sure we're going to go into it, so I'm very excited to hear where it ends up. But
guess what?
It's just immediately engaging.
Get ready to get sad.
Yeah, dude.
Guess what?
This one hit me.
You liberate this temple kind of thing, dude. You go in there, you think his brother's dead. He's not, Ben. But he's missing limbs. He's on death's door, Ben.
Oh,
and
no.
he essentially asks Norio to kill him. And Jin, like, leaves the place. The Norio comes out 100% punished Snake now. Punished Norio. Like, his brother, he had to kill his brother, but he grew as a warrior throughout this process and a leader. But this thing he, like, idolized so much, his brother, he had to be the one to finally kill him, to put it out of suffering. It's just like, God damn, can someone have a happy ending in this game?
Yeah, it's so funny.
It was brutal.
It's because like everybody's saying like, oh, The Last of Us 2 is just a misery simulator, and it's like Ghost of Tsushima has a shit ton of misery, y'all.
Yeah.
Like things end up real rough for a lot.
Like obviously there's some better endings like Tomei and stuff like that, like living, but yeah, it's like,
but even that is a little,
it's like
right.
It's the best you can get kind of in the situation of invasion on your island,
right? Totally.
But it's just like, God damn, dude, I was so sad too when that part happened, dude. It was so depressing, man.
I just love to, again, there's so many layers and perspectives and conflict within you know all the stories, and him being a monk, a warrior monk, and just, you know, his master like rejecting violence altogether.
Oh my God, the monk who gets killed.
Yep, just completely rejecting violence, and Norio having to, like, he had one of my favorite lines in the entire game. Pretty early on, he said, you know, my Nagitana strikes without without feeling or vengeance or whatever. Like, he does it because he has to. He doesn't feel the kill. He doesn't feel the love of fighting. It's purely detached, and like, it was just a really beautiful line, and I really love that. He
says a similar line where he's like, I do this, you know, I kill the few for the sake of the many. And it's, you know, I do think every character really has a strong purpose in relationship to Jin, and a lot of these other characters are trying to challenge him, right? Like, I think Yuna does a fantastic job of being like, Jin, you can't just abide by that code. Like, the shit that we're in, we're going to need to bend the rules a little bit, right? And that's a very important lesson for him. But Norio, I think, is a nice kind of reflection with Jin, where, like, he's this character that acts with conviction and purpose in the same way that Jin does. And so there's kind of like this brotherly bond between them that I think is nice. It's not just challenging him, but it's kind of strengthening the good traits that Jin already has.
Let's talk about one more character, like kind of the most minor character, or one of the most minor characters I'd say is Kenji. The side, I love him. You just don't get a lot from him though, you know? He's kind of like this goofy, comedic, like guy. He helps you throughout the game.
Total tribute to Kurosawa, Hidden Fortress. Like 100%. They were obviously pulling from so many
like
Kurosawa
a total
films.
Nod.
Yeah.
I wish we got a little more with him. His questline's pretty short. It's like 3.
Yeah. He is definitely a lot less consequential than many of the other characters, and he does only have 3 quests. But I think he's necessary. I think his kind of like goofiness. It's not even really that goofy, but he is a little bit more comedic.
Yeah, it's not like Jar Jar Binks goofy. It's like as goofy as you can kind of get in that world.
Right, and I definitely think the world needs that. I think they focused on him the appropriate amount. You know, because his stories pretty much end up being like, Kenji, you know, you shouldn't do that. Yeah. All right, Jin, I won't do that. Oops, got in trouble again. And I think if there was a lot more of that, it would have gotten old. I think they really nailed the proper amount of it.
It was great to be able to talk to a character that was exploiting the situation. So many of these bandits and side quests, people are exploiting the situation. So it was nice to like dig into his side and get that perspective with him. It was much needed.
I think what hit me even harder than the Kenji stuff, and I don't remember the exact details of it, unfortunately, but there's this like, not a major character, but just this tale that you can go on with this woman. She's like, hey, you know, really help me out. But she's lying to you. And she basically lies to you to convince you to do this thing. And then you find out after the fact, but it's too late and you already did it. And I love that. I love that, like, not everything is just this straightforward, like, oh, help me, samurai, I'm in need. That people, as they would, are taking advantage of this wartime situation for their own ends. And, that's emphasized in a whole bunch of ways, but I think in minor moments, you expect it the least. And so I really like that they used that opportunity.
Totally.
Let's quickly go back to some of the quest, I guess you kind of do, or the tales. I can't remember what this falls under, what category, but one I really liked was you're tracking down this spirit in this kind of like abandoned area, murdering people.
One of the best.
Yes.
Early on.
Very, very good.
And you fight them later on, like the villagers are like kind of in it, if I remember.
Tale, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. I don't remember, it's been a while for me, but I do remember like being like, whoa, this is really cool. Like almost a supernatural element in this game that's very not supernatural at all.
They flirted with the supernatural.
Yeah, they do that with this game, but yeah, of course it's not. Where I'm like, oh shit, are they gonna do something like crazy? But like, oh okay.
Right. We going to Infamous?
Yeah,
I think that's such a good way of handling it. I really do. And I'm really glad you brought this up, Brad, because so many games, David Cage games are a good example, right? Where they just hit a point in the story where they go way too far and they kind of completely undermine like the grounded character work that has been built up. And Ghost of Tsushima is smarter than that. It kind of like teases it.
Yeah.
And threatens it, but it doesn't totally upend the believability of this world.
Yeah.
And that's just so much better.
Yeah, because they have like the quest where this girl thinks like Kappa killed her dad or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, it's bandits. Like it usually is bandits in this game in this case, but I do like stuff like that.
Yeah. She like can't believe. That's a really cool quest as well, because she's like she can't bring herself to believe that it wouldn't be anything other than this horrific mythical monster.
Yeah, that's like a very minor quest too. That's not like a tale or anything.
Yeah.
I also really liked the art one. The father is a sculptor.
Oh my god!
This is one of my all-time favorites.
Yes.
Maybe my number one. Just the son. The son is like mourning his dad, and it turns out his dad went with the Mongols because they promised that he could continue to do his art. And he's like, I don't even care about my son. I just want to do my art. Like, get out of here. Then you take him back to his son, and his son is freaking dead.
He died protecting his dad's work.
Oh my god! And then the dad is like, okay, shit. I would trade all my art for my son back. So it's like regret.
She's like, oh, that's it. By the way, that's the end of the quest line. You're like, oh shit.
great, more misery. Yeah.
It's a complaint that I think is super not fair to levy just at Ghost, but so many of these storylines that we're talking about, I really think are either exceptional or at least above average when it comes to video game side quest content. But it's a lot of these, I feel like I'm remembering the beginning of the quest and the end, and then the middle where you just fight some Mongols, just kind of.
Fair.
And I just wish, and it's difficult to do, right? It's a tall task, but I wish the actual, like, this is the part that I'm playing kind of stood out to me more consistently in the same way that kind of the beginnings and the ends.
I think they could use a little variation and stuff like that to shake it up.
Yeah.
I do think from a narrative perspective, it's good enough to keep you going.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
Yeah, because there's obviously so many comparisons to The Witcher 3,
Yeah.
And I think The Witcher 3's strength is the variety of the stories. So many of these stories are war-torn, obviously.
Yeah.
You obviously have a lot less ways to tell a story because you're not in this fantasy world with like a billion different types of things.
Right. That's a huge distinction. Yeah.
Yes. It usually does come down to bandits or Mongols,
right?
Some kind of revenge. So,
well, I think something that helps Witcher, I guess, seem more memorable in that sense is that you have a choice a lot of times. Like you make drastically different choices in that game for outcomes, but this is like very much just one story.
Totally.
We haven't talked about combat at all, really, besides like your tools, but let's talk about sword combat.
Yeah.
I was surprised, like, when I started playing this game, I was surprised there was stances. I was like, oh shit, are we like going Neo right here? Like, obviously it's not as crazy as Neo, but I thought it was a kind of nice, surprising thing to the combat I didn't expect.
The first 10 hours, it was one of my... It's like, I love the combat, but the first 10 hours, it was one of my favorite combat systems in a game I've played, because it was this... I played on hard, and in the early hours, it felt like this really nice balance between mashing it out Assassin's Creed and punishing Sekiro. It was like this middle ground where it was like, all right, not too complicated, not too crazy, but if I miss some parries, if I miss some blocks, like, I'm dead. Yeah. You died so fast. And then as time goes on, you just get so OP.
Yeah, that's the thing with open world games is you could tackle things in so many orders, and you can get just OP if you want to.
So by the end, just with all the tools and how much health I had and resolve and the armor, just felt so OP. Obviously, the last 1 or 2 hours, I got to fool around with lethal mode, which was amazing. But that obviously came out after the fact.
Right.
So still at the end of the day, I really loved how it's funny they called it lethal, because that's the word I kept using to describe it. Like, oh man, the combat is so lethal. So at the end of the day, I still really loved it. Stealth, not so much.
Well, yeah,
but swordplay.
The AI was like super easy to take advantage of.
Yes.
Like, man, I was literally just rolling like everywhere in a camp because it was the fastest way to move, and it didn't make any more sound.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like
they really.
I don't have to do that, but it kind of sucks that I can do that.
Yeah. I agree. I think they got a lot right. And I don't envy any designer who does this, because we were talking about that duel that you have where the person is the people are surrounding you and the woman is dancing. You get that ability.
Yeah. Copy ninja.
Right. Yeah. Before that, like, duels were my favorite thing in the game, and they still are probably, but I really had to pay attention. I had to learn the like, oh, this is unblockable.
The moveset,
like,
yeah.
I really had to pay attention, and I felt like my timing was super, super important. Whereas later on, especially once I got at that technique and I had a ton of resolve, it's like I do 2 of those and the duel is over. Or even if the duel is not over, like, I cleave it down to, like, 1/5 of its difficulty or whatever. And it's tough because when you're doing something called a mythic tale, you want the reward to be dramatic. You want it to be meaningful. You don't want it to be like 10% arrow damage. And so I get that, but you just get so many things that are kind of at that crazy level that I'm like, man, you could probably remove, like, despite the fact that they're awesome, you could probably remove some of these things and still be quite strong.
Sure.
I think a really good example for me is the ghost mode, the ghost stance, where, like, it's really easy to chain. It's insane. It's really easy to chain together kills, and then you pop that, and you get 3 more kills of dudes of kind of any tier of difficulty. Yeah. And it's like, it's really cool. It's awesome when it happens. You feel like a god, and I do think that power fantasy is valuable, but I think Ghost of Tsushima just gives you a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I will for it to me also. It culminated near Act 2 or near the end of Act 2, because when the Straw Hat came onto the scene, they were tough.
Yes.
They were a little more,
Yes.
Dueling them was tough.
You could spot.
Yes, that was the absolute pinnacle of combat for me, where all right, the Straw Hat are not to be trifled with. They can take you out so fast. You cannot break their guard as easy because they would dodge a lot.
Yeah.
So it was perfect right there. And then they kind of just disappear, or there's very few, and then you get even stronger.
It feeds into the narrative so well. And, like, how fucking awesome is it that you're just exploring the world, you see these wandering samurai, might be fishing or something, and they go, I've been waiting for you. And they just demolish you.
Yeah.
They just destroy you.
So sick.
I think because it got me to that high, I was really sad when you just kept getting more powerful and it came crashing down.
Totally.
Obviously could have been corrected. And has been corrected. I've messed
lethal
around with
mode,
it a little bit with lethal mode, and I have to commend them. They released it pretty quick after release.
Yep.
So that's good. I just, in my time with the game, I wish I had a few more of those wandering Ronin moments.
Yeah, I think how you're talking about the rewards from Mythic Tales, you want to be good, but some like the 3 slices or whatever is like super OP and shit.
Yeah.
I think like a nice compromise was the armor sets you got from some of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, it won't give you this crazy ass move, but it'll give you a new set with some nice perks.
Well, the armor sets were more or less focused, right? Where it's like, okay, equip this armor if you want to focus on standoffs. Equip this armor if you want to focus on like not being detected by the enemy. Equip this armor if you really want to focus on melee damage. Like that specificity in making a choice and having it not necessarily be all encompassing is excellent. Yes. Whereas like Ghost Stance, pop, you're dead, right? I think it just covers a little bit too much ground.
Dude, cut a leader's head off.
Yeah,
so
which is
awesome.
sick.
Yeah, it's real sick.
Yeah.
I wish there was a little more dismemberment. I wish there was a little more.
Yeah.
But like, I understand the vibe they're going for, but like, shit, man, when you do like the ghost mode, you chop some dude's arm off, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, dude.
The sword is crazy.
Yeah.
I really did like how much, or how many like armor sets there were in this game. I thought that was a really nice touch. I didn't expect as many as there were.
Not only the armor sets, but just like
The
all the different
skins?
mats you get, and just all of the
All the
dyes.
masks,
Like there's
dyes,
so
yeah.
many ways you can look incredible.
Yeah, can like, mix and match things. Like, I wore, I think, the Traveler set the most throughout the game.
Interesting.
Same, I used it so much.
So I use it a lot to find stuff, because it would like shake when you're closer to things, and it gave you more Fog of War revealed on the map. Especially
And I just really
upgraded.
liked the
It
look
looked
of
awesome too, yeah.
the cape. Because it was one of the only ones that didn't have the freaking bow and arrow on your back. Let me remove the bow and arrow, please. Minor nitpick, but it was why I didn't RP as the Ronin with the straw hat, because the bow and arrow gave it a warrior vibe. I wanted just my straw hat, Ronin, and sword, but there was no way to remove either. If you equip your throw, it's arrows, or you equip the bow and it's the bow, but there was no way to completely get rid of it. So that's why I used the Traveler's armor the most, and the Samurai clan armor as well, because it felt like natural.
The Adachi
Arrows on your
clan?
back.
Well, because there's samurai.
The initial one?
Yeah.
The initial one. Okay.
That's
The
the one
initial
I
one
wore
you
a
get?
lot too.
Yeah, love that
the
one.
ones-
And then obviously the Sakai
Yeah.
armor.
The ones I wore the most, I used Ronin for a huge chunk of the game.
That one's sick, yeah.
One, because it's just very good, and two, it just looks amazing and has a great progression to it. But also, the Sakai clan armor got a ton of use.
Dude.
And man, once you level that up,
Dude, with like
Hell,
the
white
horns
dye.
on it and shit, dude. It's so sick.
When I needed to do something personal versus the Mongols, dude, I busted that out.
Family
Yo.
honor, dude.
Coming in, yes. Family honor, let's go.
Yeah.
The ghost set was super OP too. If you upgrade
Ghost set's
that
very good.
because it reduces the amount of kills you need to activate ghost mode.
Yep.
And it was like 5 or something even less than that. And it's just like, oh, this
And
is really easy.
reducing enemy detection
Yeah.
speed is also very, very powerful.
Because like, dude, yeah, stealth is so powerful in that game. You can take out guys in an instant, man.
It was also really cool when you collected a bunch of banners. Not only would you get a new saddle,
Yeah.
but you would get some clan history.
Mm-hmm.
You would talk to the flag dude, and you would go into all this backstory about all the different
There's
samurai
an
clans.
impressive amount of backstory in this game if you want to look for it.
Stuff was awesome. Loved that.
I also really like the altar. It was kind of exciting going to the altar and just being like, oh, here's a ton of supplies. And here's a mask and-
the offering altar, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, people are like paying homage to you almost. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you like. Oh, Hubert, you obviously did, but there's some cool nods to past Sucker Punch games in this also, like the Sly Cooper stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen any of it yet, Ben. There's
Yeah,
some-
I mean, I saw it.
Okay.
People,
like when I got the headband, I was like, oh shit, here we go, dude. Then you get his like the sword skin with like the raccoon stuff on it.
Yeah.
And there's the Delson Rowe headband. I didn't see anything else yet.
And I just loved getting the Sly. I talked to you about this, Brad. Getting the Sly Cooper sword skin.
Yeah.
To get to it, you walk across a bunch of tight ropes.
Yeah.
To get
That's
there.
good
So
stuff,
it's like
yeah.
such a nod.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I feel like Sucker Punch has like just the right level of pride as a studio, where it doesn't come across as like arrogance. It just comes across as like good, understandable confidence.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
And the way they incorporate that stuff, right? It really doesn't take away from.
Yeah. They're very good about incorporating like little Easter eggs like that. Like Cole had the Sly thing on his backpack from the earlier games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just little things here and there. I selfishly wanted like Sly's cane or some shit for a weapon, but
dude, it's crazy to me that the Jack or the Sly and the Infamous collections are not on current gen.
I know it sucks, dude.
Yeah,
what a missed opportunity. So
it's
crazy
one of
to
those
me.
Things where I keep convincing myself that like, oh yes, of course it's on PS4.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, it's not.
Yeah,
It's not.
It
Yeah,
blows my
that's happened to
mind.
me
Not
several
even
times.
a Sly Thieves in Time, man. Never made it. It's just,
Blows
like,
my mind.
sucks, dude. It hurts,
I
man.
think that stuff might be on PS Now. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
tried
like-
PS Now a little while ago, and it was so choppy.
Give me
for
that hard copy, dude.
yeah.
And it's like, how many times do we see this when people play a game and love it from a studio, and then they want to go back to the studio's
all the
backlog?
time.
All of this happens
Yeah.
every month, it feels like, where
Yeah.
now everyone loves Ghost of Tsushima, so it just seems so perfect. It's like, dude, I want to go back and play Infamous, Jack, or Sly. I keep saying Jack.
This game's been doing very well too, sales-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm
extremely.
always seeing things like just selling out, like fastest selling new IP, and it's like it's just like, oh, nice. It feels good when you see like a game succeed like that.
I had this thought numerous times, guys, where it blew my mind so hard. Where it's like, how many war games do we have? How many World War games do we have? How many
Not a
like
lot.
sci-fi space games do we have? Is this like one of the very, like, obviously there's Way of the Samurai on PS2, but this to me felt like one of the only true samurai games. Grounded, realistic samurai game. It's like,
Insanely high budget too.
it's like we
feels-
never got Yakuza Ishin over here, and obviously Way of the Samurai, of course. But like Sekiro and Nioh have monsters and are not like true.
Yeah, they're very
samurai games in this
supernatural.
sense. So it's like, it just blew my mind that it took this long till the end of PS4 to get a really true samurai game. Of course, I mentioned Way of the Samurai, but like that's
Those
like
are
it.
PS2 games, right?
Yeah.
Like a kind of similar situation that I had in 2010 with the original Red Dead, where it's like,
Onimusha.
wait, why don't we have more Western
Cowboy games, yeah.
Like, and yeah, it is kind of depressing when you think how many, and of course when you get into independent games,
Yes.
that is less true, right? Because there's a lot
There's so
more
many, yeah.
options. But from a big budget
For sure.
AAA perspective, it would be nice if thematically there was more variation outside of the fantasy, which takes many
Great
different
call.
shapes, right? Or sci-fi, or that's what
never
Really,
got that.
really good point, Ben. AAA for sure.
Yeah,
Great,
yeah.
great point.
Never got that Assassin's Creed in Japan that like everyone's been asking for
Yeah.
forever.
And now
Yep.
we kind of don't.
Yeah,
need
now
it.
we
Now, yeah,
it feels
yeah.
like I wonder if they're just like, oh shit.
Yeah. Now if it comes out, it'll be like, oh, okay,
Oh,
cool.
Okay. Cool. A little late.
I feel like we've said a lot about this game. I don't really know what else to say about it. I was very happy with it, obviously, when it came out.
Yeah.
I think there's room for improvement, especially if they do a sequel.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of want to know what you guys think what they should do. So, just for a quick example, I think if they ever do a sequel, I think maybe another weapon type or a couple more weapons would really help. Like, I love the katana in the game, and I think it's done really well. Really well. But I think having one or two more could really add some more depth to it. Like, the katana, what's there is great, but I think just having one or two more might be very nice.
So along those lines, Brad, this is exactly what I want. So in Ghost of Tsushima, you kind of have this transformation of going from like a very strict coded samurai, not coded, but code of ethics samurai. You follow this order, right? And then you transform into the ghost and you're kind of this own thing. But throughout that process, you get the best of both worlds. You're an amazing samurai and you're this amazing stealth killer ninja dude. I think in the next Ghost of Tsushima, I would like to be able to get in on a conversation like you where it's like, I chose this path with this weapon. Because I chose this path, I didn't get to do other things. So when I talk to Huber, he's going to have a very different gameplay experience than I did. Not necessarily like an RPG where like you create a class and you have stats and all that stuff, but I just mean like the story presents you with like 3 different routes, and we can all have these different
okay. So not necessarily like a good or a bad decision. Like,
yeah, not necessarily like that, but it's like, okay, if you want to be a ninja, you can be, but that is going to give you completely different options than like Huber, who chooses pure samurai or something.
I think that's a pretty cool idea, actually.
My dream is obviously in the mainland or something, or
that's
like that'd be pretty wild. And just for the world to feel a little more alive. There were times when it felt a little static, just going to, always going back to the Golden Temple and everyone kind of just like sweeping along. Just like, give me more ways to really inhabit this world, really RP, like go to towns and go to a little tea house and
drink some tea in there.
Tea. Yeah, more ways to RP, more ways to immerse yourself for sure.
Well, there definitely could be a sequel. There's another invasion of Japan. So this game takes place in 1274. Yeah. There's another one in 1281, I believe. But yeah, there's stuff going on in other island. Stuff does go to the mainland. I wonder if they do a sequel. If one thing that could be interesting is if you're fighting a lot of the Japanese now too, because you're this outlaw. Everyone's hunting you,
dude. Yeah, people that want to recruit you to the cause, that think they need you, and then others who reject.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, how are we gonna deal with the Shogun?
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's this overwhelming force now that's also after you. So I think there is some room to explore stuff like that. I'm not necessarily saying like you pick one side or you pick the other. It's just kind of like you're in the middle of this conflict going on both sides.
Do you think we'll get any DLC?
That's a good question.
I feel like it was pretty wrapped
Sucker Punch usually does do DLC.
They have a pretty strong history of doing DLC, and I just don't know why you wouldn't with the explosive success of this game.
Right. Yeah.
I wonder if you time it somehow with like a PS5 version where you're like, hey, here's the DLC. You can just purchase it on its own if you just want to play it on PS4. But here's the PS5 version with the new story.
I imagine it'd be a standalone DLC if you want it to be with a different character.
What if they were saving that Ryuzo flashback for DLC? Maybe
it's possible.
It felt weird that we didn't see it. Like it was like, oh, I'm surprised we didn't see that. I wonder if there was a reason behind it.
A lot of room to tell like a Yuna story as well.
Yep.
I could see an entire standalone game where she has so much history, or just like her being a thief or whatever. There's a lot of room there. Yeah,
you could do like Masako. You could do Jin's uncle or something like that during the rebellion going on.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
There's a lot of tales to tell still. I don't know. So, you guys got any final words about this game or anything?
Loved it. Absolute joy to play this game. Blown away. I've wanted a game like this, I feel like, for my whole life. Just so many years of like, dude, I want a sick samurai game. Like, where is a good samurai game? Like, Onimusha, scratch the itch a while back. But
Supernatural, though, also.
Supernatural stuff. So it was just so awesome to finally get an incredible, grounded samurai game, a brand new IP that felt fresh, new interesting ideas with the open world, and just such memorable characters. So just loved my time with it.
I think my final thoughts are it's an embarrassment of riches, and I think that really needs to be contextualized. Like, I still have pretty strong complaints about Ghost of Tsushima, but I think really in context, Ghost of Tsushima makes me realize, like, man, it's been an incredible generation. Like, at so many other points, right? I don't think I would feel my criticisms for this game as strongly, because it's just been like incredible game after incredible game after incredible game.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for that. I really want to express that as somebody who's been invested in video games for decades, that it like just pumps me up thinking about the level of quality we're consistently at. And that's not to say everything is good or that there aren't huge mistakes or flops or whatever. But I think if you look kind of at the overall picture, it's stunning how incredible games are and how fast things are moving. And I really applaud Sucker Punch for taking a chance in every generation, like we kind of talked about. And yeah, happy to have played this game.
Yeah. Cool. Well said, man. All right. I think that's it from us. We'll see y'all next time.
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode.